Well, welcome to Build and Bond. We're going to do the mid-size Falcon today. I love this build overall. I already put it together, and I have some thoughts on some stuff that I loved and some stuff that I thought was a little bit challenging. But if you haven't been here before, we're going to put this together and hang out. Build with me. So the Millennium Falcon has a special place in cinema, but definitely has a special place in the hearts of all of the Star Wars fans, and I'm one of them. And there's a lot of reasons for it. It's iconic, not because of its shape, but also because of what happens on it. And it's really the place where Luke's journey kind of takes off a second time. And it's that idea of going on a journey. And I know that always makes me think about, what I'm going on a journey and what's that going to be like. And especially when it's with new people. And, ultimately, in the story, he ends up looking back on all of those times fondly and as things that changed his life in ways he didn't think was going to happen. And I think that's true for us too, right? It's a good reminder, certainly for me, to be open to those experiences. You meet new people all the time and maybe you're not really sure what it's going to be about, but if you just let yourself go and enjoy it and experience it, who knows, you might look back on those memories fondly too. I know that that's true for my experiences in my life, so maybe that's something to keep in mind as we build this today, is what are some experiences that you have coming up where you're maybe not sure because it's full of new people or new situations that maybe you could grow from and you won't even know it's happening. So you might want to take a risk. All right, let's start building. So this is probably going to get lost in the build, but I wanted to take a moment to show this really adorable Easter egg to the Dejaric game that they're playing. So you've got R2, you've got Chewbacca, which is actually made of two different colors, which was kind of difficult. And then you've got C-3PO, so really cute. So those will probably get buried inside, but it's a great Easter egg from episode 4. I really do love all the little hidden details. These little Easter eggs are so much fun, and what I love about them a lot is that they're kind of hidden. When you finish the build, no one else knows that they're there except for you and the designers, of course. But I think it makes me think of like how in life it's okay to have things that are just for yourself too. They don't have to be hidden away, but things that you do just for yourself. For me, building Lego was always like that. On a busy weekend, to put an hour aside to just do this for myself, it's a form of self-care. So I hope that you have something like that for yourself too, whether it's hidden or not, but it's for you to enjoy, and that's the whole purpose of it. So you deserve that. All right, so here we have our scene from episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, where you've got Leia and Han here being interrupted in the hallway in the power corridor by C-3PO. So I'm going to post a picture. This is one of those complicated parts where it's really hard to tell which colors go where, and it doesn't really ultimately matter. This will get covered up, but for the sake of the build, my tip is that Han Solo has dark chocolate colored boots and lighter colored hair. So there you go. All right, this is fun. Halfway through the build, you get to create the stand, which works really well. But it also has an angle on it, which I really love. So it does sort of position the model ultimately with a tilt so you can see it better. What's interesting though is when the model is finished, you could orient it this way, but you can't do that until it's finished because it's not weighted enough on the back. So it is built in such a way that you can do it in this tilted manner. And the build for this particular stand was really interesting. I almost wanted to celebrate the fact that we were actually getting finally for the first time in a really long time, a truly different build for the stand. And there were some really interesting aspects for how to build it. This part at the back, for example, if you saw me twiddling with it a little bit here, fiddling with it, it's because it was a really interesting way to use the shapes and be able to create this very slight bend forward so that you tilt it. Overall, amazing. So I'm ready to keep going. So this build is definitely representing a journey, and that's kind of cool. But I think the key thing about any journey is the fact that you're discovering things about the world on the journey. And I don't know about you, but every time I've ever had a chance to go somewhere, I end up discovering something about myself too. And that's key, I think, right? So every time you get a chance to go somewhere or see new things, it's not just about what's happening outside, it's also what's happening inside. And if you don't notice that, if you haven't noticed that before, I want you to think back. I bet every time you've gone somewhere, it has changed who you are somewhat in a little bit on the inside. So next journey you have, you can look forward to that too. Okay, get this together. And there we have it. It looks great. Wow. It's really interesting how this all comes together, right? And it does come together sort of over time. It takes shape over time. It's one of my favorite things about building Lego is the fact that you can't always see the progress until all of a sudden it feels like it just all comes together. And I think it's a good reminder for me in my own life that, you know, whatever I'm working on, whatever I'm trying for myself, it doesn't always seem evident to other people, but doesn't mean it's not happening. And suddenly it looks like it happened overnight, and it really didn't. You've been working on it all along. We all have things like that. And just, we have to remember to give ourselves the patience and the grace with ourselves to keep going while that work is happening. It doesn't always happen immediately, and it doesn't matter if other people can see it. You know it's happening, and then you have something wonderful to show off at the end. So be proud of yourself for that. All right, the final looks. Okay, so the entire thing is together. I think it matches the box art really beautifully. And as always, it's so much fun to put this together. And I feel bad always saying things that I maybe didn't love about the build, because overall it was terrific, but I want to give you some of the highlights. So from what we were doing. So going forward, let's start with this first thing that was kind of a challenge for me, which is all of the little Easter egg references inside are really adorable, and I love them. They're so awesome. They're so great to pay homage. In them, it can be a little challenging to differentiate the different kind of browns from each other. I know that sounds really silly. It's easy to manage those pieces, and it's great that they're hidden in there, representing different things, but that was sometimes a little challenging. I had to really look a couple of times. One of the other things was this back panel here, the actual engine port area. It looks so great, but getting the tubing into the pin was really complicated. It took me actually quite a while. I had to actually, it might have been the way that that particular piece was molded, but it was a little frustrating for me. I had to end up getting some help from some stuff from the kitchen to try to open up the hole a little bit so I could really get that in there, because it really just fits exactly perfectly when you have it all sized. So that was a little bit of a trick. So if you're going to do it yourself, just know what to expect there. One of the things that I really love, two things here about the stand, is that you get this angle, this actual angle, which I really think is fantastic. It's also one of the first times in a long time we've actually had a new kind of stand, something that's really different. That's fantastic. You know, we're as fans of these kinds of builds, we really want to display them well, and this one doesn't. This one really tilts it beautifully. It's a different kind of build. The reason there's a red sticker on here is only because when you put it back, it has the studs on the top to hold it in place, but when you actually put it on and off, sometimes this can just pop right back off. And that's a little bit frustrating when you're putting it together and when you want to move it around. So I think it's really incredible the way that it looks. Let's go on to some of the stuff, though, that I really loved. Well, also, I'm sorry, there had to be, excuse me, step number 94 was a little difficult because it was kind of hard to attach. It looked really good, but just be aware going into that, you just have to use a little bit of care to make sure everything lines up really easily. Let's talk about some of the stuff that I really loved. First of all, on this side here, you've got your printed pieces for the cockpit and for the airlocks. We haven't had those before printed exactly like this. I think they look fantastic. They give you the scale that you're looking for in this model. So it really comes together and looks really beautiful that way. This last one really represents the fact that you've got this wonderful scale. It's really solid, so it's easy to move around. It doesn't feel super fragile, which is really great. But it's got this amazing scale. It really looks accurate, right? It really looks like it works, and it really looks even good from behind and on the bottom side. So it is a super win. Okay, so just to be a fan, one more last thing is that I didn't love is the 25 Lego. It looks fine, but it's loose. And in other models, we've seen it actually attached to the stand. And I just want to know, why can't we just put them together? Sometimes things belong together, right? Like you watching this channel. So that's the end of this build. And you know, as always, my favorite part of doing it is doing it with you. So whether you've got this Lego set, whether you've got any Lego set at all, whether you're planning to get this one, remember, we've learned through this, it's really about the journey and about the people that you meet along the way that really make it special. So in life, you got this. Time to clean up.